Today I'm going to show you how to make a ring from one of our flat comfort ring cores on a piece of wood on your lathe using a small chunk of stabilized wood. Making this ring we're going to use a few tools, and I want to quickly show you what they are. We're going to need a drill chuck and a drill bit. This I think is about a ½ inch, maybe a little smaller, I don't know. The size doesn't really matter, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm going to use a boring head with a small boring bar on it. And I'll show you why we're going to use that. It's a much more precise way to cut our hole. Use my easy wood tools. I've got the round with a negative rake, just to be a little more careful. I've got my square radius, and then I've got my detailer. And you'll see why these all will come into play here. But it's a fairly simple process, but having these couple of tools really makes a difference. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is glue my blank to my block. So I kind of want to eyeball this. Obviously, I want to make sure I have a blank that's wide enough for my ring size. This is very simple. I'm just going to put some thick Ca on my blank. And I did sand this blank to make sure it was flat so I get a good meet up place for the glue and the blank, the glue and the block. And then what I'm going to do is spray Accelerator on this side. So I can just press this in and firmly hold it in place for about 15 seconds. And it should be good. Obviously you want to take precaution. Make sure this doesn't fly off. If you're not sure you got all the glue, you can spray the Accelerator on the outside. And then we're going to load our drill chuck with our drill bit into I want to run this about 800. I'm going to snug up my tailstock. I'm going to advance my drill into the blank. This bit feels terribly dull. Time to sharpen it, I would say. Oh, it's going way too fast, that's why. I slowed it down. There we go. Going too fast, it just basically made dust. All right, and once I hit that green, I know I've gone through my blank. Verify that. Yep, there's green. So now I know I'm through. Now, with my hole made, I can put my boring head in. Now, the reason we use a boring head is for micro adjustments. You can see this is probably where I stopped using it the last time, but by advancing this Allen wrench forward or backward, we can move the head just slight variances left and right to get our precise fit for our ring. Now if I compare that, obviously I've got a lot more to cut out, but I can just take off little bits at a time now. So I'm going to advance it, cut, and when you're cutting much smaller amounts, it cuts a lot smoother and flatter. I believe these are originally made from metal, these bits, these cutting tools. So they're not perfect, but they do work really well for these small adjustments. Now, I want to check my ring. I'm very, very close. So I have a feeling I don't want to go a full rotation. I'm going to go a half. And I don't know how far it moves each rotation. I know there's a dial on the side there. I'll have to look here in a minute. Oh, that, I just got lucky because that fits like a glove. It slides in and out perfectly straight, which means it'll glue in there very nicely. So this is exactly what we're looking for. We want to be able to get this started and have it slide right in. And there's just enough room in there. I mean, a fraction of a millimeter for glue. So what we're going to do is now glue this puppy right in there. So this is pretty easy. We're just going to glue this in. I did put on gloves because I have been known to glue my fingers in. Now I want to get a bead about 3/4 of the way around. And what I like to do is put it in and then quickly rotate it and have it be flush on the outside of the blank. Oh. And that way my glue has gone all the way around and looks good. And you can hit it with a little accelerator if you want to speed up the process. Now I'm going to use my detailer to essentially round this. Once I know I've cleared my ring blank inside, I can now part it off. And I'm just using a little parting tool. I'm going to get on the inside of this little groove I cut. And if you don't have a parting tool, this is a little flush cut saw. You can also use that. So this way you could use whatever works that you have. Now I'm going to kind of try to hold this guy. Actually, I'm going to stop that. It's so close, it's starting to catch as it goes through the material. There we go, kind of just busted loose for me. So we're a little rough on that side where it came loose, but we've got more than enough material to turn it. So now we can load it onto a ring mandrel and do the turning and shaping. Okay, I've got my ring on one of the ring mandrels that we offer at Turner's, and this is the smallest size, so it must be a size 9. I don't know, I don't remember looking. And basically I'm just going to turn this, and I'm going to use this detailer because I want to get real close to the side here, but real carefully. And I'm going to just shave this down until I get up to the metal of the ring. So I'm really trying to keep an eye on there. I just touched it. You probably heard that little bit of sound. Now I'm going to go across the surface and flatten that out. Okay, what I've done is switched mandrels. I went to the largest size of the smaller mandrel and it fits a lot better. I do have to tighten it up all the way, but it fits a little better. The other one, it was just a little too big to get the nut started, and I think it was loosening on me. So this will work much better. And I'm looking good there. And I can just take a little more off the surface. I'm going to switch to my negative rake because I want to be real gentle here. You could use a regular carbide. It would work fine. But if you've got a negative rake, this is a great time to use it to be a little more careful. And I'm just rounding this shape back and forth to the thickness that I want the ring. So I've got about 2 millimeters, it looks like there. And I'm a little higher on this side, so I'm going to level it off and I'm going to kind of see how it looks. You got to be careful here. You can get in a trance and cut all the way through all your wood if you're not careful. So that is looking pretty good. It looks, obviously this doesn't fit me, but it looks like from a wearable size, it's not sticking up a bunch. It's about twice the thickness of the ring is about what our wood is. And this wood is really cool. It's got some really dark streaks in it and stuff, so it's gonna look really good. So this is actually thickness-wise about where I want it. So the only thing I have to do now is sand, finish, and polish. So now I'm just gonna sand this down. I'm gonna get the sides really well and the top. I'm using 600 and 800 sandpaper, and that's what I'm gonna use for my final shape. It's gonna clean up any of my glue on the sides, because after this I'm gonna CA finish it and use Zona, so that will not remove anything big or chunky. This is my opportunity here. So this is stabilized wood, so it'll actually hold really well, even though I'm using water. It won't affect it much. But I am keeping it wet for the dust and I think it ultimately will be smoother and shinier if I wet sand it. So since that's what I believe, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to kind of go the other direction just to make sure my sand marks are not in there. Grab some paper towel. I can dry this off now. And it won't be shiny, but what I'm looking for is any place I need to sand, any marks that look bad, because I'm just going to seal them in with my CA finish here in a minute, so I want to make sure it looks as good as possible. Okay, so I've let this dry, and I am going to go ahead and CA it. And I do CA it right on the mandrel. Occasionally I'll have to chip off my mandrel from the CA, but that's okay. It makes it a lot easier. I'm using Mercury Flex Thin, same stuff that we use on pens, and it's relatively easy on a ring because it's so small. In between coats, I'm going to spray the accelerator, let it spin a few extra seconds, put another little drop on there, and I'm just building it up. Now, I don't think you need to build it quite as much as a pen, although you know, a ring will get a lot of wear, but being the shape of it and the smallness, it seems like it doesn't take as many coats. So do whatever you feel comfortable with. I usually do about 4 or 5. So this ring actually does not have any rough spots or crust on the side, which is the case on some rings. So I'm going to go right to Zona. If I needed to smooth out any rough stuff, I'd go back to my 800 grit. But I'm just going to go right to the Zona wet. And I'm going to get the sides and the top so that I make sure I have a good polish on the side of the ring as well as the top, because obviously the sides are a little tougher to get to. And I'm going to keep my Zona wet. I want to keep all that dust off of there. And you can kind of use your fingernail to push along the side of the ring. All right, now, so I've gone through my Zona. I'm going to take the ring off, and I always like to examine the inside because I'm pretty good at getting glue on the inside of the ring. So I just take my 800, I keep it really wet, and I just go around the inside, and then I'll work my Zona through it just relatively quickly. I just don't want a rough spot or something that would be uncomfortable for somebody's finger. I may have been holding that out of there, out of the camera. Got to remember, I was on a tight camera shot here. So I'm just clearing that inside, kind of giving it a little polish so that it's more comfortable. And there you can see, or maybe not, But that is a pretty cool looking ring. It's a little dark. This is the wood it was made from. So the wood has a lot of cool color in it, light and dark and reds and blacks, and it makes a pretty cool ring.